All right, so for those of you who don't know these three gentlemen, Al Kidd, President and CEO, Jennifer, I thought it's Dr.
No,
Jennifer
that's a
Kroll,
dollar.
and Mike Price, your incoming chair, so here we go.
Thanks, John.
Which seat do you want?
Oh, wherever you want.
for it.
Please, after you.
Someone better looking than me right there.
Well,
Thank you. Again, Kristen and John, great welcome here. And, you know, when I first came here, Kristen, John told me he had guys, but it wasn't for chandeliers. And Don, thanks for coming. You know, when I was selected to come in and look at the organization and try and begin to, you know, change the course a bit, we were starting with a solid foundation. And from there, when we looked at everything that's going on in the industry, it was our belief that we needed to widen our scope, widen who we serve, do more for members, and everything that we've done over the last couple of years was in the vein of providing better product, resources, and services for you. We have widened it significantly, and today is the beginnings of our new brand, Sports ETA, Sports Events and Tourism Association, which we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the things that we've done around our Vision 2020, which is our founding document to go forward for the next couple of years. The board approved it a couple of years ago. We've been working on finalizing the structure of that and how we can do a better job to serve your needs, both individually and collectively, on a number of fronts. You're going to hear about some of the changes that we're ready to embark upon around the education development. How many of you talked about coins this morning? Anybody here talk about coins from yesterday's CSCE? Yeah, quite a few people. That was a terrific CSCE meeting yesterday. 80 people showed up out of the 165, which we're real pleased. Janice already talked about some of the newcomers, and so the organization continues to fuel the growth and fuel new people coming in. So our responsibility, as we looked last couple of years, was we needed to set the foundation to grow what we wanted to grow from our vision. And part of the foundation was we needed a solid bedrock of some new bylaws, and Carrie and some of the guys that were on that bylaws team, Roy, thank you for those of you that attended last year's symposium. It was a short meeting on bylaws, if you remember. But we got it through, and that laid the foundation for how we want to govern and grow the organization in the future. The second thing that happened positively was the new brand name, which was a wider spectrum of service. So today, we've added some new staff to our team, some expertise in topical areas. And today we have Dr. Stoll, who we pirated from Grand Junction Sports Commission. I'm not against taking good people from anywhere, so if you're looking, no, never mind. And she's done a great job, and her responsibilities focus on education and research. And we intend to be a much bigger player in both those areas. Mike Price, who is the incoming chair next year, and I have developed an extremely strong bond and friendship over the last couple of years, him rising through the ranks of the board, in laying out our new accounting structure and financial reporting systems. And Mike has taken on the responsibility of advocacy. And advocacy is a big area of interest that we have. It's one that doesn't come without some cost, and we're beginning to lay out the strategy for our advocacy. So Janice mentioned the word earn, and we were looking at developing not only our mission and vision, but we wanted to have, what are we good at? What's our strengths? And as an organization, particularly one that is an association that is to serve your needs, we felt that education was extremely important. Advocating for your success, advocating for issues that surround not only your state, but on a national basis. Expand and develop the resources, which includes research and a number of things. And improve and expand the quality of networking opportunities, of which this is one of those. And so we embarked on a couple new programs. We changed the mission of this event from the market segment discussions. There was education, but this is strictly an educational forum now. That's the purpose of it. It has nothing to do with the size and scope of your association or your destination. So those are some of the things we started. We added the Chief Executive Summit. We've had great success with that. We added a Women's Summit. How many of you have gone to the Women's Summit? A number of you have seen it here. It's a terrific event. It's in collaboration with the NCAA, and every year it takes place at the Women's Final Four. And it's great content, great women leaders from around the country, not specifically to sports commission or sports tourism. It's more broadly based. So that's just a quick description of what EARN stands for. Those are our 4 pillars of excellence: education, advocacy, resources, and networking. So that's what we stand for today. So this is a kind of a format for discussion that we've established now in the last year. And it's meant to be both informative and to answer questions you have. So the format today is real simple. We're going to talk about some of the areas more conversationally. We'll interject questions if need be. And then after each of the pillars, we're going to call for any questions you may have so we can provide further depth. So some of the work is still in development. So some of the strategies around education advocacy are still working through the final structure. But this is for you. So feel free at any point, raise your hand. If someone's talking, it's more important that we get to you and what you want to learn and what you want to know and how you can, participate more. So with that, we'll start with the letter E.
That's me, huh?
That's you. That's you. Fire away.
I got past that part. E is for education, right? So we're good there.
Well, it was the last letter in my sentence.
Yeah,
so.
right. How many people attended the CSCE summit or a session yesterday?
Good.
Because I think almost half of our attendees at 4S attended that session. And give me just a kind of thumbs up, thumbs down. What did you all think of it? A lot of thumbs up. That's good. We'll send a post-event survey on that, and you can tell us what our thoughts are. But I think yesterday really showed a microcosm of where we're looking to go on the educational front for the association, and bring in subject matter experts who can liven up our education content and teach us some transferable skills, maybe related to our industry. It could be outside experts that have some sort of relevancy to what we're doing, because our ultimate goal is really to make you better at your jobs and to make your organization more efficient. And I'm obviously a big proponent of doing that through education. So that's really the theme that you're going to see moving forward with all of our educational offerings, whether it's at our in-person sessions at 4S or Symposium, or Facility Summit, Women's Summit, a Chief Executive Summit, or as we start to roll out more online education opportunities. And all of that is really based upon one core philosophy, and that philosophy is that we just want to be continually improving the quality of our education. So there isn't an end point. There isn't a point where we say, there we go, we're going to sit back, we've got it, we've got good education. It is going to be a constant evolution. So you'll see us trying some different things, bringing in some different types of presenters. And what's really important for us to make this process work is all of your feedback. And you'll see that in post-event surveys and otherwise, but I'm always available. Al's always available, members of the board. We can only make it as good as what we're hearing from you, right? We want this association, whether it's your first time here or you're a seasoned veteran, we want you to provide us feedback on the content that you're looking for and the content that's going to help you do your jobs better. So that's probably an underlying foundation of where we're headed with education. I think you saw a glimpse of that yesterday at CSCE. You'll see a bit more today and tomorrow, and we're already starting to program into next year for Women's Summit and Symposium.
So, Jennifer, we've added what I kind of call special interest groups. Mm-hmm. And special interest groups isn't a negative description of the groups, but they're topical areas of interest that our members have shown that they coagulate around where there's some numbers. And a couple of the areas, we formed a state association group. So there's 28 state tourism associations around the country, 25 of which have been active participants in the last couple meetings. We've had 2 meetings now. And the third is the facilities group, which we're finding with all of the facilities cropping up around America, we've had significant demand over the last year and a half to participate in bringing them into our fold. So where is education going to fit with some of these special interests?
Well, I think some of the feedback that we've heard over the last couple of years has really been that maybe there's not enough rights holders education, or I'm new to the industry, I really need the 101s on how this industry works, or maybe I switched market segments. Or on the other side of things, I've been in this industry a while, I need some education that's a little bit higher level. And I think before we've kind of fallen into a little bit of laurels, if you will, by sort of putting a round peg in a square hole, right? It was like trying to take the critical mass and provide education that can cover everybody. And what we found is it really left a lot of people out on the outskirts looking in, saying this doesn't really pertain to me and what I'm doing on a daily basis. And those of you that know me know that I'm kind of naive enough to come up through this path and just MacGyver to figure out what's going on here. But what I found personally from my experience was, as I was trying to grow the sports commission and start a sports commission in Grand Junction, is there weren't really a lot of resources for me to meet me where I am. And that's really the approach that we're taking with the special interest groups and otherwise, is to really try to find and provide robust education and content for the wide breadth of membership that we have. And I mean, that's reflected right back into the brand and the rebrand and what we stand for as an association.
So Mike, one of the things that you're involved in the beginning formation of the state tourism group, and there's been some discussion in the couple early meetings about education. You want to shed some light on the kinds of things that group is looking to for education purposes?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of leakage between those four pillars too. Education kind of moves into advocacy a little bit, and resources, and certainly into the networking as well. So what's really neat about all four of the pillars really is it's not just programming that we're working on. It's a realignment of resources, really, and just focusing on those four pillars. So if it doesn't fit in education, if it doesn't fit in advocacy or resources or networking, we're not going to spend a lot of time focusing on it, because that's really where we can move the needle for our entire association and our membership. So I think the education piece with the state groups really works to raise the tide for everybody. We have some groups in that meeting yesterday that have been doing it for a long time. In Michigan, for example, we've been doing it for about 12, 13 years now as a state association, kind of moving forward. And we feel like we have some experience in that. And we have some folks in the room that are still trying to develop what their structure of an association looks like in their state and how they get going. And we have everything in between. So we're working together to figure out how can we help each other on the state level. But obviously from an education standpoint, that's easy to do when we're in the room working together. But also we have some resources that we can all work on together from an advocacy standpoint and leverage what's going on in Michigan. And I can call Nebraska and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. Yeah. Are you guys seeing this coming down the pipeline, or the pipe as well? I can reach out to our friends in New York. We're trying to get something going and saying, hey, we just heard about this happening. How can you help us in New York, because we understand the same things going on here? So it's just that higher level of conversation, I think, that can occur from an education standpoint, specifically to the state networking group.
Yeah, with that, we've been approached by a number of state groups to provide educational tracks within their state. 6 to 8 hour segments where we come in, bring our team in, develop educational tracking around that from a state standpoint that deals with some state issues, some regulatory issues, and some things that are globally. So that might call it leakage. It's the expansion of us providing services and things that are more specific and answerable. And one of the things about the education is we're building on a solid program that talked about a number of these issues. In reading some old documentation, they were always trying to sort out the levels of education, because different people need different levels. And I know that was one of the big things that your team. Jennifer's team is Janice Ross heads up the education, and I don't know, there's 30 or 40. There's a lot of interest in it. A lot of people get involved. And we've parsed out different parts of the education process so that each of the people have an actual segment they can work on. So one thing we want to make sure that everybody understands is no one left behind concept. So with some of the projected changes as you finish a strategy that will launch after the first of the year, talk a little bit about past CSEEs and future CSEEs and where that stands, and what do you have in mind for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's no doubt that we have a great foundation to work from. With CSEE, I've got mine. I know a lot of you have yours or are in the process of obtaining your certification, and that has really been a strong point in our association for years and years. And like I said before, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an end point. It's a journey, it's a process, it will continue to be that way. So we really got the opportunity to take a look at our association certification and say, hey, what can we do to improve it? How can we make it more relevant for you as a professional and what you want to achieve in your career, but also, again, back to your ability to be effective in your organizations. So one of the things from the perspective of building out a revising CSCE is, you know, we really have taken the courses, like even yesterday was a great topical course on presenting, but I didn't take that for my CSCE, and somebody may have, and Mike's CSCE looks a little bit different than mine, that looks different than Don's, and so on down the line. So one of the objectives that we're tackling right now is really how do we build a cohesive core curriculum into our professional certification, and that gives it some stability, right? It's more uniform. That shows credibility in the industry when it comes to, well, how do I know that your CSCE is the same as mine? So we're working on some core curriculum aspects of that. But then to Al's point about not leaving anybody behind, also building out some tracks specific to whether you're a rights holder, whether you're a standalone sports commission or part of a CVB, or you're a facility or venue operator, and really an industry supplier on down the line. So probably the most important thing that I want to impress upon you is that is a pretty complicated task. There's a lot of layers to that onion when it comes to peeling back everything that is comprised in CSCE and certification. And we want to really make sure that we're putting in the due diligence and the effort to tackle that really, really, really diligently and take our time and make sure that we get it right. And you'll start to see some of those changes rolling out in 2020, but just know that it has not been taken lightly.
Jennifer, one of the questions I get often as a board member about education and where it's going is the question of, so I have to start over. Now you're going to launch a new program. What does that mean for me? I've had my CSE for 10 years now. I have to do this again. What does that look like too? Yeah,
absolutely. And we're still working through some of those details, but there's no doubt that your CSCE isn't going to evaporate into the ethos, right? It is not going to be something where you are, all the work and effort in obtaining and maintaining that certification is going to go by the wayside, and we're really putting a lot of emphasis on how that plays out in the next year. And Janice, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, has done a great job in helping kind of navigate those waters with us. So more to come on that, but just know that we are keenly aware of everything that comes with such a huge undertaking.
Yeah, and if you think about, there's an existing structure in the university or college system where you have gen ed and you have specialty courses. And so a big part of the effort going forward is to have some mini certifications, mini meaning M-I-N-I, of a certain amount of hours on a certain specific task, whether it's risk management or sponsorship or services or whatever. So we're looking at all of those things, and it'll be rolled out, and you'll be well informed as we take that journey. Before we move on to advocacy, are there any questions, general questions out there that anybody has that are burning in their minds, or 3-second rule? Okay, thank you.